I hope everybody's day's been going well. Welcome to our legendary Trailblazer event. It should be a good one, so I'm excited to see everybody's face and to hear all the good stories. My name is Benji Russell. I'm Woodward class of 2013. I'm also a member of Woodward's our newly Black Alumni Association board. I'm helping out myself and Nat Johnson are doing our networking events for our board. So you'll see my face a lot in some of these events as well as Matt. I do want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. This is going to be a pretty exciting event and should be some monumental comments and stories that we should hear. So thank you for that. I first want to start off by letting the person who really helped us set everything up. Him and Caroline Stantz have done a great job of helping out set this whole association up. Dr. Gully, I'll let you have your remarks. You go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Benji, and it's great to see you. I can't believe it was 8 years ago that you graduated from Woodward. It just seems like yesterday.
It does.
Colquitt on the football field, playing football for us. We're so proud of you during your time here and proud of all that you've done since. But I'm really honored that you all have invited me to participate in this event this evening and to offer welcoming remarks. This is an important and historic moment in the life of the Academy. Our world has changed dramatically in the span of less than a year, from COVID to the racial injustice that we have experienced across the land and even at Woodward, particularly with what we came to sadly understand about the environment at Woodward for some of our students and alumni through the Black at Woodward Instagram account. And as I have said on several occasions, while I can't change the past, I am committed to a healthier and more wholesome future where everyone feels valued and appreciated. And I think the creation of the Black Alumni Association, this event tonight, are all steps in the direction of making that happen. I especially want to thank Nat Johnson and Dr. April Ripley, who are going to be moderating this evening and who had a role in putting the event together. To all of our panelists who are true trailblazers and are among the earliest Black students, either in a class or parent community leaders, our faculty, our governing board from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I want to make you aware that yesterday we had a magnificent assembly, one of the best in my 12 years here at Woodward, called Shades of Woodward, which was the brainchild of Lori Smith, who graduated last year. And she wanted to have the story told about what the Woodward experience was like for our earliest Black students at Woodward. And so Clarence Davis and Nicole Adams came to the campus and they were interviewed by two students. And for 45 minutes, they shared from their heart about their experience at Woodward, what they learned and how that made them who they are today. And I have had so many comments in person and by email from students as well as faculty who have said that this is the best assembly that they can ever remember at Woodward. So Clarence and Nicole, please accept my thanks for your significant involvement yesterday. I'm very excited about the collaboration between the Black Alumni Association and the Black Student Union at Woodward. And I'm pleased that Lexi Rogers and Maya Packer are here tonight, and they're going to be joining as student interviewers. And I want to now turn it over to Justin Alexander, class of 1999, our immediate past president of the Alumni Association and an integral member of the Anti-Racism Task Force at Woodward, who's just given us such great insight and leadership. Justin, please know how much we appreciate and value you and how proud we are of you. And I'm pleased to turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Gully, and thank you, Benji, for getting us started. Good evening, everyone, and happy Black History Month. Hope your Black History Month is already off to a great start. Dr. Gully said, I bring greetings on behalf of both the Board of Directors of the Alumni Association and the members of the Academy's Anti-Racist Task Force. And those two groups and the BAA really are all linked in their dedication to a higher purpose, and that's to ensure Woodward truly lives out its mission and brings together and embraces people of diverse backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences. Given the share of the student body that has grown, given the share of student body that's grown as Black over the past 25 years, Black alumni will make up a larger and larger share of our alumni community going forward. So for the Alumni Association, it's critical that we connect with this special community. And the BAA has already brought a surge of new energy and a more diverse set of alumni into our active community. And so the Alumni Association is committed to helping the BAA by helping translate the tremendous energy we've already seen during this inaugural year into long-term success, by finding opportunities to partner on events that bring this special community together and introduce it to the broader alumni community. And ultimately by listening to and learning from this community to design even more creative ways to engage all alumni in support of the Academy. The BAA's mission and goals also complements the goals and directives of the Anti-Racist Task Force. Both groups have tried to really turn a crisis into opportunities. Both groups have brought a critical eye towards the Academy and how it served its students of color in the past. And ultimately, both groups have a strong sense of hope that the school's best days are right around the corner. So we've really been encouraged by the dialogue between the Academy's leadership, between the Anti-Racist Task Force and the BAA leadership to date. And we know that the BAA will hold the school accountable for delivering on the range of commitments the Anti-Racist Task Force has made. So finally, I'm a firm believer that you can't make sense of the past and plan for the future. You can't make sense of the present, right? And plan for the future if you don't know your past. So I'm thrilled to hear and learn from this evening's speakers. And ultimately, I applaud the BAA for bringing these stories from the past into Woodward's understanding of the present. So thank you, looking forward to tonight, and I'll hand it back to Benji.
Thank you, Justin, thank you. Appreciate you both. Obviously, change starts from up top. So to hear that from Dr. Gully, it's a huge deal. And to see that the board is also involved in helping us with whatever we need, it's a big deal. So I thank you both for both of those things. So obviously we're here and we talked about it a lot. Woodward has been involved in trying to make some change. And so we basically started, and I shouldn't say we, Nat Johnson, Kendall Rooney, and Morgan McKinnon. Obviously this past year was a tough year, so especially for the Black community. So they got together and they thought of this idea of putting together a board of Black alumni that ranges from honestly all kind of classes. And we are here right now. We wanted to focus on three things, especially networking, mentorship, and philanthropic ability. So Kendall is actually the top of our philanthropic subcommittee. Morgan does the mentoring committee, which I don't know if some of you guys took part in an event she had this week, her HBCU event. And myself and Nat will be doing the networking. So you'll see us at a lot of these events. Our board members are amazing. We have everybody from some of our panelists today to the first students at Woodward. We have everybody from the 90s to the 80s to as recent as 2020, from 2020 graduating class. So we have various views and kind of opinions about how Woodward's really process of getting a lot of these things fixed, how it can go about. So I won't hold anybody too much. I really want to just give you all a quick rundown of tonight's schedule. We're going to try to keep it short. We want to make sure everybody gets out of here at 8:30. It's everybody's free time. So we understand that. We're going to try to make it as concise as possible while also sharing our stories. So first, we had our remarks, and thank you guys both for that. Next, we'll go into interviewing our first group of panelists. That'll be done by Nat Johnson. Talked about him a pretty good bit. He's class 2014. I'll let Nat do his intro as well. We will be joined with the Black Student Union's Maya Packard and Alexis. I'm sorry, I apologize for Alexis Rogers. She's class of 21 and Maya is class of 22. So they'll be helping us out with a few of our questions. Then next, we'll go to the Q&A, so you guys will have time to ask your personal questions for our participants. And then next, we'll go to our second group. That'll be hosted by April Ripley, Dr. April Ripley, apologize. And we'll go from there. We'll have the same setup. She'll interview the panelists. We'll have a Q&A for everybody to ask their questions they have. From there, we'll have a few remarks by Lexi and Maya, talking about the Black Student Union that they formed, and then I'll close it out. So we'll try to make sure everybody's out of here at 8:30 and enjoy the rest of their night. So with that being said, I'll throw it over to my guy, Nathaniel Johnson. It's on you.
Hey everybody, I'm Nathaniel Johnson. I'm really glad this is a brainchild event. I feel like a lot of people have had this idea of bringing all of the pioneers in the Black community at Woodward together and discuss your stories, share what it was like going to Woodward during the times, as well as giving advice on how to succeed after Woodward. We have a wide range of very successful Black alumni at Woodward, and it's an honor to have some pioneers here because they can talk about their successes. And as we know, the point of going to Woodward is to breed and build success. So I would start by saying this is the panelist on group one. We have Clarence Davis from class of 74, first Black male graduate. Nicole Adams, class of 1976, among first Black female graduate. We have Chaplain Lawrence, who was the first Black chaplain, as well as having two children, Kim Lawrence and Rob Lawrence, from class of 2000 and 2003, respectively. We have Mr. Andy Cunningham, which was one of the first Black faculty at Woodward, and then Mr. George Tripp, who was the first Black president of the Parents Club. So for the long, I guess we can get right into some of these questions. I got a question for Chaplain Lawrence and actually, excuse me, I'm sorry. I have a question for Nicole Adams and Clarence Davis. What was it like being one of the first Black students at the school?
Then being basically kind of shut down. I think everybody has
is that the question?
No, I'm sorry. My bad. I thought I heard something.
Yeah, if everybody could, panelists especially, everybody could mute when they're not talking. Thank you.
Okay, so my first question for you all is, did you understand what it meant to be among the first Black students at an all-white institution?
Well, I'm going to start so that Clarence doesn't. It was not something that I was aware of it, but I want to tell you, I've had an opportunity to reflect over the years, and I see it now. But at the time, I was just, a girl from East Point that was given a great opportunity to go to a great place. Other people had to tell me how important it was before I actually grasped it myself. But you guys are making it relevant. As I said yesterday, no one had ever really seemed that interested. I went to school there, but I've had a chance to think about it. But at the time, I was just pretty much another girl on campus with friends who took care of her.
That's awesome. Mr. Clarence? I don't think we can hear you.
Clarence, you're muted.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, you good.
My mom basically forced me to go to Woodward. She basically said the world is different. You need to learn how to deal with it. Because I lived in Tuskegee, Alabama. It's about 85, 90% Black town. I did understand the enormity. Particularly when I understood the enormity based on a few early racial incidents that took place, where my classmates, my hallmates, upperclassmen intervened in certain situations, and I didn't have to do anything. I mean, there's one in particular where I looked around, and at that moment I realized, I said, Clarence, you know what? You don't need to resolve everything with your fists. I said, you can resolve it through persuasion and people respecting you. And when I saw my classmates and hallmates stand up and take on the individuals that were raising the racial issues through the N-word and others, and all I needed to do was sit back, that's when I realized the enormity. That's when I understood, even from Tuskegee, Alabama, Booker T. Washington, raising the veil of ignorance came to my mind. And it was at that point in time when I made the decision, oddly enough, and I told my mom, I want to go back. She knew I wasn't going back. I went home every weekend. But it was bigger than me, and I knew it. And there was my opportunity, and I thought that I prayed that I was the right person at the right time. Now, there are certain things, and this may be getting other issues, that I made sure everyone saw. You see, my mom taught me, and I adopted it. She said, it is not important that a man or woman likes you. The only thing that's important is he or she respects you. And so I didn't really care if anybody liked me. I made sure I worked hard. I made sure I did my homework. I made sure I got to class on time. I made sure I participated in class. I made sure I studied. And I made sure that everybody saw that. I made sure everybody saw it. And the other thing I did, I stayed out of trouble. And I will tell you, one reason I got sent to Woodward, because I was a troublemaker. But at that time, we had demerits. I did not get a single demerit until the last 2 weeks of school, when we went off campus and went and partied. But I made sure that I stayed out of trouble. And as Nicole can tell you, she and I had a few conversations about it. I'd actually forgotten about it because it was bigger than us. And I wanted to, and I knew she had that it factor. I'll just tell you, she had that it factor. I recognized it when she came in, and I made sure that Nicole can't be getting into this. This is bigger than us. We are integrating this school. We're integrating a segment of Atlanta, Georgia. And so, yes, I understood the enormity, but the enormity arose from racial incidents that took place, and when folks stepped in themselves on their own to resolve them, even with a few teachers that I had initially, classmates stepped in. So,
wow, that's amazing. Like, that's really good to hear. Wow, that's powerful. I want to piggy off of that and ask Chaplain Lawrence and Andy, Mr. Cunningham, how was it? First, how did you end up at Woodward? But how was it being one of the Black first professors or chaplains at the school, especially seeing, maybe you see students treating other students differently from your point of view. What was your experiences?
And right before y'all answer that, sorry to cut you off, Nat. So Q&A, you guys can chat. If you have a question, put in the Q&A box. And as well, for our panelists, let's try to make sure we keep all of our responses under 2 minutes so people can all get a chance to speak. So sorry, go ahead, Nat.
Go ahead, Chaplain.
I want to yield to Brother Cunningham since he's senior to me at Woodward, and then I'll come after him. How's that?
Thanks, Bob. Nate, it was, how did I find out about Woodward? I started there in '85. I got a phone call from one of my mentors, or I should say my mentor, Curtis Patterson. And he gave me a call one evening and asked me, he always said, brother man. So he said, brother man, what do you think about, have you ever thought about teaching at a high school level? And I said, no, I think I'm thinking more about teaching university level. And I asked him, why do you ask? He said, well, I was asked to make some recommendations, and you were one of the people that I was considering. And I said, well, where is it? He said, Woodward Academy. I said, oh, I know Woodward. That's a nice school. And I told him, I said, you know what? I said, can I get back with you on that? And he said, yeah, but don't take too long because I have, several recommendations I need to make. I said, okay. And so I get off the phone and my wife asked me, who was that? And I said, that was Curtis. He said, what do you want? He's asking me, was I interested in teaching at, teaching at high school? I told him I'd get back with him. She said, well, where? She said, Woodward Academy. She said, get on that phone and call him back. And so I did. And, went through the process, interview process and everything. And there I was, I ended up there. And that's how it all started. As far as being, how does it impact students? I think it was pretty much students saw me and was like, hey, finally I see someone that looks like me. because when I got there, it was Helen Spears, who was in the social studies department, and myself. So I was pretty much the first Black male that was hired in the upper school there. Yeah, it was identifying, here's somebody that looks like me and they're a faculty member. And so that's always a huge responsibility. And I was always acted myself. I always treated my students and colleagues with respect, and I always received respect from them as well. I always felt welcome there. So it was a relatively comfortable environment for me to work into. Yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay. I arrived at Woodward in July 1, effective July 1, 1996. And how I got there, for me, actually, it was providential. And I'll tell it this way, the way I heard it, because at the time, we had brought our daughter to school to be interviewed. All students in high school, as you know, had to be interviewed, personally interviewed there. And so I discovered on the day that she was there for her interview, after our interview, we left, and the director of admissions went to the restroom and came in the restroom was the president of Woodward, Tom Jackson, and there was a discussion. And at that time, the president told the director of admission, Rusty Slider, that, hey, we're going to need a chaplain, our current chaplain, who, by the way, he was African-American. He was there for about a year. Said he has told me he's not coming back and we need a chaplain. And then Rusty told President Jackson, said, well, there was a young lady I interviewed today for the upper school, and her dad is in seminary at Candler. And apparently during the interview, she impressed him enough that they were willing to give me a call. And so they did. They gave me a call after that interview and talked to me about being chaplain at Woodward. And I indicated to them that I said, well, I am in my last year of seminary now at Candler at Emory. And right now that's going to be utmost finishing that. They said, well, come on, will you come out and let's talk? So I came out and I talked to them, and the rest is history. So that's how I got to Woodward. And that was effective July 1, 1996. And of course, upon arrival there was Mr. C, as I call him, he was there. And there were about 7 or 8 others by that time there throughout. He was the only one in the upper school. And in the middle school, that was Coach Sellers was there. Down in lower school, I was a counselor, Laura Washington, I think, in transition to someone there. And then there was someone in the lounge. And this is outside of the facilities and food services and transportation. And so the faculty was very scarce at that time when we came in. That's my 2 minutes.
Yes, that's 2 minutes. But that's awesome to hear. I'm really glad to hear that everyone kind of understood the gravity of their position and understood that they were amongst a small crowd, but believe that they can uplift many people. But I'm really interested to hear from Mr. Tripp. You were the first Black president of the Parents Club. And I want to know what led you to sending your daughters to Woodward, as well as what led you to wanting to be so much involved to be a part of the Parents Club.
Thank you very much. It was just something that my wife and I, at the time, wanted the best education and the best environment that we could find in South Atlanta. So we knew about Woodward and several other private schools. So of course, not having an instruction book on how to raise children, so we discovered Woodward, and it was really a lot of things just kind of fell together. We started in pre-kindergarten with Latanya, and every day that I would pick her up, she would come out with drawings of stick people attached to her uniform. And I'm saying, well, we're paying all this money for her to learn how to draw stick people. I don't know if we made the right choice. So every year I would go looking, I guess for about 3 years, to see if there was something else better. And we could not find, a better environment for her. And so we stopped looking, and the rest is history. That was in 1978 that we came to Woodward. Of course, Latanya finished in 92. Her second daughter, LaShawn, followed right behind her, was 7 years later. So we started in 78, and the last one, LaShawn, finished in 1999. An excellent experience, well worth all the investment that we put into it. Of course, it was a sacrifice. Back then, if I tell you how much the tuition was, it was like $4,000. So, so 4,000, of course, back then, that could have been a new car. It could have been a lot of things, but it went to a well worthwhile cause.
That's awesome. Do you mind, what led you to being
muted now? Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Tripp.
Okay, all right.
Being part of the parent club. Sorry.
Well, all of that kind of just fell together. My wife was always very active, following her parents. When she was in school, I came out of an education background, although all of my career was spent in the insurance business and business. We got active, she was a room mother. It kind of starts, with the homeroom, and they kind of see how you respond and how you do your job there. And then we're asked to serve on the board. And we didn't know what that was all about, but we got there, we tried it. Of course, there was nobody on the board that looked like us. So we started out as parliamentarian. And each year you would go up a step. So we went from parliamentarian to treasurer to secretary to vice chair. And everybody was kind of waiting to see, okay, because that had never happened before. So when it was time for us to move into the president's seat, it was a very smooth transition. No problems at all, no hesitation on the part of anyone. Of course, Mr. Jackson and Mr. Wolf were the people that you kind of look to. And of course, Rusty Slider was instrumental in everything that we were able to do. And it was like almost taking a year off of work for my wife, because it was a job. And it was very important because this was leading up to Woodward's centennial celebration. So we had a lot of work to do, a lot of meetings. You had to meet with a lot of different committees as we planned for that big fundraising event. Of course, the Super Goober Day, that was the biggest event up until that point. But when we were getting ready for the Centennial Ball then became the big event, a big fundraiser. And I remember to this day that the fundraising for that particular year was over $100,000 that the Parents Club was able to raise and give back to the school.
Wow, that's a lot right there.
Yeah. When you think about it, then I would tell my friends that this is kind of like a PTA, and most PTAs in a public school are dealing with $2,000, $3,000, in the treasurer. And when I said we had $100,000, they couldn't believe that.
Did you say Super Goober Day?
Super Goober Day. Well, see, you go back to the boarding school, and see, a lot of the people that are listening probably don't remember that Woodward was a boarding school back during the day when we came. And that was really very interesting. And we were on the board when they did away with the boarding school. We were there when we started Woodward North. We were there when the transportation, the buses, started. So we saw a lot of change during that time from 78 until 1999. Yes, the Super Guru Day. And I guess those that, those that came after you would be happy to explain how that goes.
That's good. That's great. I know we have some questions from the Black Student Union. Lexi, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. It's for Chaplain Lawrence. So you were actually my chaplain as I was at Woodward in the primary school, and I remember we'd have our community meetings, and you'd lead songs, and it was always so great. But I was just wondering, what exactly did your job entail as chaplain, other than when I saw you? And were there any times that when you were in the minority, it made you feel uncomfortable?
Okay. Well, initially my job there as chaplain, of course, being the religious head for the academy, Woodward had one chaplain. There are a lot of schools much smaller that had many other chaplains. And I said, why we just got one? But anyway, so that's chaplain. But in addition to that, was duties. When I first came in, Woodward didn't have chapel per se. It had stopped the chapel when the boarding program went out, but it still had weekly assemblies. And so my responsibilities were to coordinate and get activities for that, for the weekly assemblies. I was involved in coaching. I'm sorry, I can tell this real quickly. I coached football for 1 year, and I'll tell you why it was 1 year. I said it because I started out with the ninth grade. I never played football. And then next thing I know, they moved me down to the 8th grade. And then they moved me down to the 7th grade. And they say, hey, Chad, why don't you go to the intramurals? So I got the message. And so I did that 1 year. So, but then I also coached with the boys and girls basketball program. I did that, some coaching there as well. I had the opportunity in later stages, as you know, being in chorus and working with the choir and traveling with the choir and getting to, I actually had the opportunity, it was a great opportunity to actually be involved in concerts throughout Europe. Of course, singing is a passion of mine, and that was a great opportunity for me. I really enjoyed that. As the experience there as a minority, what was it like? Well, it was, let me preface, I had 25 years of corporate experience before coming to Woodward. I'm dating myself, but that's okay. And began, first of all, in the late 60s when I first went into corporate. And as a corporate employee, that I was in places where I was a minority. So when I came to Woodward, that experience as being in a minority, if you will, was old hat. And so that didn't make me feel uncomfortable at all. I had learned to deal with that. And yes, still at Woodward, being the chaplain, I've been in places, when there were illnesses and death, and I'm at the family of Jewish students and some Muslim students. And I'm the only one that, I look around and it's me. Others, but that was okay. It was okay because I had become comfortable with that, and I had learned that was part of responsibility. And I just learned that if I'm myself, wherever I go, then I'm going to be all right. So it's always worked to do good, to know what I'm supposed to do, know myself, know my job, know my work, and then go and do it. Yeah.
Good. We have a
I think
question.
I answered all the questions. Did I answer all of them?
Yes, you did. Did
Okay.
you, Lexi?
Thanks, Lexi.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a question from the Q&A. People want to know from, I guess, everybody, but specifically Mr. Cunningham and Chaplain Lawrence again, how's the evolution of the Black students been since you started there in 2021?
Wow. Huge. It's when I got there, there were very few Black students. Very few Black students, and I saw even fewer Black students in the arts. A lot of them were, if they were in the arts, they were in band or chorus, but very few in visual arts. So I didn't see a lot of them come through, but I would see them on campus, and well, as you know, they would identify with me, I would identify with them, even though they weren't in my classes, which was great. Over the years, to see more and more and more Black students come through was very exciting to me. And I think it was more of an ease for socialization with the Black students when they would see more and more of each other coming. There's always been a great sense of respect and camaraderie with students at Woodward, regardless of color. But I think with the higher population of young Black students coming there, they were able to have more of an identity, put it that way, and I guess to see more and more of their culture exposed at the school. So I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, and of course, when I came in, the ratios had shifted some from when Mr. Cunningham came in, and it actually in the upper school, for example, I know it sort of mirrored the faculty. It was less than 10%. Less than 10% were the numbers when I came in as far as the students, and I sort of verified that because I went back through the yearbook and I counted them. But the short span, I say short span that I was there, I said short compared to Mr. Cunningham because he was there when I left him there. It was greater than 20%, and I think it's even grown so now. So I saw that shift of around 10 or less than 10 to about 20% mix when I left, and I'm not sure what it is today, but I can imagine I think it's just looking at it's greater than that. So I was there with that shift, and having been a part of it was always rewarding because the students, and I think they having someone to identify with, have another person of color to identify with, I think it helped the students too.
I can't say I was very proud. Sorry, I'm very proud to see a lot more of us at Woodward. I will say that.
I want to ask the same question to Mr. Tripp. How has it been from bringing your daughters there in '78 to being there all the way to '99 as a parent? How have you seen the evolution of the students been for you?
Very much so, the same as Andy and Chaplain Lawrence. To see the numbers every year that we would go back, we would see more and more people. But one thing about Atlanta is that there is a camaraderie among, especially minorities, but now that is throughout, across racial lines. And a lot of the people that were coming in, we knew one another. And just to listen tonight, I learned something that Andy was referred by Curtis Patterson, and Curtis was a good friend of mine, too. We went to church together. And of course, Chaplain Lawrence, brother, and I became very good friends, Rosie, at another church. So there were connections, and of course, April and her family, our office was in the same office complex, and we have remained friends, over the years. So that gives some, well, not that Woodward needed credibility, but it gave some acceptance because as new people were considering coming to Woodward, they would call and just ask. They would find us somehow and just ask, hey, tell me the real nitty gritty. What is it that I'm getting into? And am I going to have problems from a racial standpoint? And our experience was always very positive because we had the inside track to the headmaster as well as the president of the school. We could sit down, we could call them anytime. They would always take our calls. And we referred so many people to Woodward, and they all thank us till this day for the experience that they had. And I'll just mention this too, that we were instrumental in starting a new church in 1992. And we used Woodward Academy's chapel for about 2 months. And then all it took was a phone call to Mr. Jackson, and we told him, and Mr. Wolf, and told him what we were faced with. And the first, with no hesitation, come and get the key. Here's the key. Here's the key to the organ. Use it as long as you want. They didn't charge us not one dime. When we did leave there, we left with a nice contribution. They came to a service. And Woodward is very family, very community oriented, never had any problems. And I can say that about some of the other parents whose kids were going across town. And they would tell us about some of the experiences that they were going through, and we never had any of that. Everything was just a very smooth transition, and it made it very easy for other prospective parents to come and have the same experience that we would tell them that we had been experiencing.
That's great. I'm glad to see everything I love about Atlanta is like you said it right there. The camaraderie, the Blackness, the way that we all come together, and the fact that you just named off half the people on this call and said that I have a relation with their family in some way kind of shows how well connected the city is. And we have one final question, and this is for Nicole and Clarence. How did Woodward prepare you for the real world, or the world outside of the school? Yeah.
Nicole, you always like to go first.
Well, that's because I'm always trying to stay ahead of you, sir. Well, I was prepared for the outside world in several ways. As I said yesterday, I have no fear. I just don't have any fear outside of that first day I walked on the campus and walked to the bookstore with my mother and father. That was probably the most fear I'll ever feel in my life. But after that, nothing else. The other thing that Woodward prepared me for, and I'll try to honor the 2 minutes, it prepared me to have a philanthropic spirit. As I said yesterday, there were members of the board who made a conscientious decision to have Black students on the campus, and they paid for me. I only had to buy my books. I was a scholarship student. And as I became an adult, I was fortunate enough to be able to send my daughter to independent schools, the Children's School and Woodward Academy, served on the board at the Children's School. But it became very important to help provide scholarship because someone did it to me. And my philanthropic spirit and the things that I like to do, I'm able to do, and I want to do are because I'm paying it forward. Someone did it for me.
As for me, as we talked about yesterday, fearlessness, confidence that you could do whatever it is you set your mind out to do, determination, work ethic. I mean, they taught me that because when I got there, I mean, I was from the public schools of Alabama, and that was like number 15 in the nation. And so I had to catch up. So I had to work really hard. Just meeting different people, developing instincts. We've got a guy on our call now, Johnny Howes. I had to put up with him for 3 years. So you kind of learn how to tolerance for others. He's been pinging me on my cell phone, by the way. But it taught you instincts too. It hones your instincts as it relates to people and what type of people you're dealing with. And it hones your instincts as related to hate. It hones your instincts as related to respect, love. I mean, it just hones your instincts no matter what the background of that particular person. And all those have served me particularly well in the military as well as in private practice. I'm a trial lawyer. As I stated yesterday, I get in front of juries. I can read people. And Woodward gave me that because of all the opportunities that I was presented there to meet the different types of people and people embracing me, taking me to their homes, going out on Friday and Saturday nights. I mean, we just, and I was experiencing things that I'd never seen before. I mean, I remember to this day when we went to this artificial ski slope, and I looked at the height of it and I said, well, I'm not going to ever become a skier. But it was just those experiences. All of that comes into play when you get out here in the I guess you call it the real world. Real world is period. I mean, it's real world no matter. But when you get out here in the working world, all of those experiences came to bear, and I've reaped the benefit of them.
That's great. I'm glad that the school taught you both those things, because they taught me the same things as well as I was going through: fearlessness, hard work, determination. And I could say probably most of the alum on this call, the school has taught them that as well. I'm really thankful for you all to be on this call. Thank you for Mr. Clarence Davis, Nicole Adams, Chaplain Lawrence, Mr. Cunningham, and Mr. Tripp. And look forward to hearing more stories. Hopefully we can, once COVID's all over, we can all link up and have a in-person panel. And once we get these in-person events going, we'll definitely get some conversations going. So I'll pass it on over to Benji. But thank you all for being on this call and sharing your stories.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for sharing. That's especially, Nicole and Clarence, talk about your fearlessness and the things you guys would have went through. I couldn't imagine. So that's awesome to hear from all of you guys. You have some unique stories. So next, we're actually going to go to a short little clip we have of some pictures and some things we put together for you guys to share some of the experiences, with pictures that we can share with you guys. So it's on you, Nat, or Caroline. Thank you. It looks like it's, yeah, okay. All right, there we go. So we see some fresh faces right there. Y'all all still look the same, by the way. So I can see it all. I can see it all. But next, we're actually gonna roll on to April. We're gonna throw to April, and I'll let our second group of panelists have their turn to share their story. So go ahead, April.
Great, thank you, Benji. I'm so excited about tonight. That first panel was outstanding. I remember we were speaking just briefly. I told Mr. Cunningham, I remember going into the Fine Arts building and there's Mr. Cunningham. But thank you for all the notes that you shared and insights and just your experience. I'm excited for this portion of the panel because we get to go a little bit more into the students who were some of the first. And so this panel will consist of Mr. Darren Finley, who was the first class president. He's class of 1983. Tamara Jones, our first valedictorian, class of 1988. Valerie Bridges Lee, our first homecoming queen, class of 1990. And Mr. Torrance Mosley, first SGA president, class of 1994. Welcome to the panel. So, Mr. Finley, your experience at Woodward as being the first, how did that shape your life during Woodward and then what you decided to do post-graduation?
Great question. First, thanks for having me be a part of this. And the event thus far has been amazing. And so thanks to everyone for putting this together. I was apparently the first Black senior class president in class of 83, 1982, 83. And I think like some of the previous panelists, it prepared me post Woodward to ascend to leadership positions, feel comfortable in those leadership roles without having to second guess or have a second thought about whether or not I belonged in that, in those positions. I left Woodward, went to Georgia Tech. It prepared me to navigate in that environment. And I'd love to say with fearlessness, like the other panelists, but at least with enough confidence to know that I was capable of navigating in those waters to the point that I could be successful. I also thought it was very powerful to recognize that you found that you had more support from others than you possibly thought you did. And so I shared that with, I think what Mr. Davis said in terms of knowing that there are people out there that are going to support you regardless of race, regardless of those other diverse factors that may make you different. And so having had that experience at Woodward led me to not expect it, but to lean in and embrace it when I saw those opportunities present themselves.
All right. So it did help you, the environment of being in a high school that was predominantly Caucasian. When you went to Georgia Tech in that similar environment, you found it easier to navigate because you'd already kind of learned in that experience, sort of grew up in that experience. And I think that's a really important thing. I can testify to that a bit myself. And so I definitely want to hear from Tamara. Tamara, we know what it's like to work on grades at Woodward, right? To get the Eagle Awards, to, of course, get high grades and pass tests. And you were a vintage Eagle. So you've been from pre-K all the way through. But tell us a bit about the experience that you had, and when you found out you were going to be valedictorian, what was that like?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be part of this group. In my family, we were raised with humility, and I'm by nature, or at least I used to be, fairly shy. So I can honestly say when I found out, I was proud, but mainly I felt that I was standing on the shoulders of others who'd gone before me. And I was happy to be able to honor my parents. My father had died of cancer right before I entered Woodward in kindergarten. So, but he and my mother had wanted me to go. So I was happy that maybe in a way I was honoring him. And my grandmother had moved from Texas to help raise me when my father passed away. So I was happy to be able to honor them. I was in awe of the responsibility, and I wanted to represent all of my classmates. And I can honestly say all of my classmates, all races, were genuinely happy for me, congratulatory of me. And I just wanted to give a send-off to all of us that would celebrate each of our unique talents. And I was a little nervous to have to do it, but I was happy, and I was just felt very blessed that because I understand that I stand on the shoulders of Nicole and everyone, and I just wanted to make a good impression. And I was happy for the very, very small minority at Woodward that may or may not have had opinions about, narrow-minded, inappropriate opinions about, Black students may only or primarily be there for athletics or the arts or anything completely inappropriate. Which I never had that experience, but I'm sure there are probably some. I hope that in some small way, I was able to shatter those racist views. Sometimes you have to talk to people in a language they can understand. And for those very few that have those kinds of views, sometimes there are no words that will suffice. They just have to see it and shatter those beliefs. But for the most part, I was just very, very honored. And I felt just very humble, because it was never about me. It was about us as a class, and it was maybe about Black students at Woodward.
Torrance, you were the first SGA president, and Tamara just said something that kind of stood out to me. That's not just of your class, but that's for the entire school. And so that meant you had to do a lot of speaking, a lot of, kind of smoozing around to get these votes to come in, right? So how did that feel for you? Did you feel this pressure? Tamara talked about it. She's like, I was this Black student in this majority white school. Did you feel like you were the one that had to speak or represent all of the Black community that was at Woodward at the time? What was that like in your process of running for class president or SGA president, excuse me?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've always, I came into the Woodward, from a predominantly Black public school background in the College Park, Riverdale area. So I knew going to Woodward would, in the ninth grade, and I came in the ninth grade. So I knew it would be a huge culture shock, and it was. I did feel like, I felt coming into Woodward day one, I took a hold of the responsibility of knowing that I represent all young Black men. I represent a lot of Black men. I represent pretty much the majority of the white students and teachers at the school's view of young Black males. So I came in on a mission, like wanting to make sure that they understood that this representation of young Black men could be, they could be represented in a positive way. They were a lot more well-rounded than just athletes, but they could be equally well-rounded and athletically as well as socially. So I definitely accepted that responsibility of kind of coming in and representing, for young Black males at that time.
Oh, yes, that's a lot of responsibility, right? You feel this. They're looking at you. It's almost like you're in this, under a microscope a little bit, like this magnifying glass. What will he say? What will she do? What are her grades like? How will he interact? So there is this pressure, and that's the reality of it, because we become kind of the representative for our race in this cosmos of being at a school that is diverse, but still we're a little bit of the special, population in the school. Valerie Bridges Lee, oh my goodness. Every morning I remember WATV, seeing you, cheerleader, SGA, vice president, track, and homecoming queen. I think that is one of the things we most remember, because yes, we had students, we had, officers, but to see an African-American woman crowned as queen, that really lifted a lot of us. I'll speak also for women when we saw that, for Black women in particular. But you did something also very different. You gave forward, I think Nicole referenced this in the first panel, that you give forward and used all the things that you'd been involved in. How did you use that giving forward? What helped to launch that?
Wow, that is a really good question. And I cannot believe it has been 31 years since I graduated from Woodward. It seems like every milestone in my life, Woodward is always kind of in the background. It's there. Let me give you an example. So I was raised in College Park, Green Spring Road, and I went to Woodward. And then when my parents moved from College Park, we lived in Riverdale, the same street as Busey. Many of you remember Busey. I lived on that street, same street, Woodward. And then I moved to Walker Avenue, which is behind Subway. There's Woodward. I lived there for 10 years in the community. And now I was so blessed, even in a pandemic, purchased 4 commercial properties right across from Woodward. And so I mean, if you can't tell from that story, I really do love Woodward Academy. I love the community. And I'm just excited that I have the opportunity to give back in the community. So I have my headquarters for my company, Woodward prepared me. I have been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years with an IT consulting company, and we service higher ed institutions. We've worked with Harvard, we've worked with Stanford, we've worked with University of Central Florida. Woodward prepared me for all of that. So, just in my background, went to the University of Georgia, went to Southern Tech, which is now Kennesaw State. And now 20 years, I'm back in school getting my doctorate degree in business with a focus on entrepreneurship. Having said that, because entrepreneurship is so important to me, we have a pop-up shop that's right next to headquarters, right across from Woodward, that's called Pop Shopolis. And it allows aspiring entrepreneurs to use the space for pop-up events. And so we really do want to get the Woodward community involved with that, because I know there's an entrepreneurship club, and we want to host aspiring entrepreneurs so they can showcase their talents, showcase their services. So right across from Woodward, that's there. And we also in the spring will open a wellness spot right next to Break Pad. And in that wellness spot, we will have fitness, yoga, Zumba, just a host of things. And we have facials, manicures, pedicures. That is something that I did not see in the community. And I wanted to offer that there. So I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to do that in the community. It has just been a real honor.
Wow. So there'll be a one-stop shop. I'm as you see me here tonight outside the gate, right across is
yes.
all of that. I'm excited also that we do have students from the Black Student Association who are on tonight. It's Maya Packer and Alexis Rogers, and they have a couple of questions for the panelists. Maya.
Hi, so my question is for Mr. Finley, but first I'd like to just thank Mr. Finley and Mr. Mosley for kind of paving the way for me. I am on SGA. I've been serving as class president for the past 3 years. So thank you so much for, paving the way, being the first, and allowing me to go forth and do what I do now. So Mr. Finley, after you won as the first Black man, did you receive any backlash?
Actually, no. And I pause when I say no, because either there was none or I was clueless. But I felt embraced. And in fact, my desire, interest of running was sort of I guess if it were a real political campaign, there would sort of have been a groundswell of interest. I was not out to be class president. I had friends who encouraged me to be class president. They were like, "You should be our class president." And I'm like, "Me?" I'm like, "Who, me?" And they were like, "Yes, we think you should be our class president." And so when you have that support and you have people that see something that you may not have immediately identified with, it's not that I didn't think I could be, it was just not on my radar of, I'd been active in a lot of, extracurricular activities. I was active in sports. I did a lot of things. And so I was by no means out of the loop, but so I was encouraged. And so there really was no backlash. And interestingly for me, over the years, it's interesting and important to me that I'm actually embraced that way. I have friends now that remember it and actually somewhat value it almost more than I do. Some of my Woodward friends who will still reach out to me to this day and recognize that as a first. I'm not even sure I was aware that it was a first. It was simply, "Hey, we think you would be a great guy to help us do this. Would you be interested?" I'm like, "Sure." I think I wrote my campaign speech on the way to chapel, because that's where we had to give those speeches. So it wasn't real, a predetermined or preconceived notion. But so no, there was really no backlash that I was really aware of. And I can say that if there had been any significant backlash, I felt like it would have been, similar to Mr. Davis. I felt like my peers would have managed it very well for me, so that I would not feel pressured or compelled to, be afraid or, or have to do anything about it. So no, so again, either there was none or I was not aware, but I think that's important to note that it was, that was the culture and that was the environment. And in some respects, I felt it was, less divisive then than possibly now.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Jones, I have a question for you. As a current senior at Woodward, I know full well that classes are not always easy. And so I was wondering, do you think your race amplified the pressure associated with achieving your accomplishment? And if so, how did you manage it?
So that's a great question. Yes, the part that I didn't say earlier, although my classmates were happy for me, there was a little bit of a competition to be valedictorian. I did not know. I was much like Darren, not quite as outgoing, but I mean, in the sense that I just wanted to do the best I could and I got along with everyone. But someone, came up to me and said, did you know that you could be the valedictorian? This was about junior year. You could be the valedictorian, but someone's out to get you and they're going to take your spot. And I was just kind of like, what? So there was pressure. It was a friendly, I figured it out. It was a friendly competition. And, now being a lawyer, would like to think I'm a zealous advocate, but then I was never a competitive person, but the other person was a white male and an amazing person, but there was a little bit of pressure. So because I didn't want to, and it was also, in addition to race, which is why we're here today, a little bit of a gender pressure. So I wanted to, represent myself well. How I dealt with it is not to think about the outcome, not to think about what's my GPA going to be at the end of this year or this class, or what if I don't do well on this test, because I would completely psych myself out. So I really tried to focus on doing the next thing, literally, like just focus on this test, this exam, see where we are this quarter, and just go from there. And my mother and grandmother helped a lot with that. And I think that's advice that really helped me today, even when I was practicing law. Like, if you think too much about the outcome, you don't do the steady, daily, consistent study tactics or planning tactics, or in athletics, the daily work that gets you to that outcome. Did that answer your question?
You most certainly did. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That was really good, Tamara. So as students, and that leads us to the next question, really for each panelist, what advice would you give students now at Woodward in whether life, their schoolwork, whatever it is they want to do at Woodward or either post Woodward? And Tamara, we'll start with you. What advice would you give to present students at Woodward?
I think the present students are amazing. I'm so proud of this organization. So part of me wants to say, keep on doing what you're doing. I'm thrilled that we have so many. It just makes it so special. I would say Woodward offers, I think it's an amazing school because it offers something for everyone. You could be talented in the arts, you could be talented in athletics. And I think Woodward really tries to bring out the best in each person. So not just academics. So I would encourage each student that's here, you were admitted for a reason, you're special, you have multiple talents. Follow your passion. It's an amazing place that gives you opportunities to do professional level work, whether it's dance or the arts or sports. You can do that. If you're interested in an academic endeavor, you can do it. I would really encourage people to do two things that may be a little bit contradictory, but they go together. First, follow your passion. We all know what we're interested in, what you think you're interested in. Dive into that. And then second of all, try something that you may not even, or many things you may not think that you're interested in, because Woodward has such a platform, and not just in terms of school or arts or athletics, but also in terms of running for SGA. Push yourself, because Woodward has such a nurturing environment. Yes, it's competitive, but the teachers and the administration and fellow students are there to support you. Try out for cheerleading, try out for push yourself, because it will prepare you in so many ways for college and beyond. I think that's what makes Woodward special. It doesn't pigeonhole people into just one area, academics or athletics or arts. So just really dive in there and don't be afraid. Don't worry about GPA. Follow what you're doing. And if you have problems, lean in, tell people. I went to tutorial like everyone else. Like, you have to just dig in there. And there are things sometimes you don't understand. And sometimes my mom would say, yeah, you're not supposed to understand it. That's why you're there. Go to tutorial. So a lot of it is just don't be afraid and just explore. You are stars. You're all amazing, or you would not be there. Believe it. So just dive into it.
Thank you.
If I could jump in on that, I want to add to Tamara's point too. Yeah, what I would tell kids at Woodward now is one of the biggest things I think is showing initiative and taking advantage of all the resources that Woodward has to offer. As she mentioned, yeah, there's so many more now since compared to the 90s, and I think all the resources that Woodward has to offer, they're very comparable to like the opportunities you'll have to get involved in your colleges and universities. And I think a lot of people would say, yeah, Woodward does a great job in preparing you for, your college, the next step. And another thing too, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, like, if you could identify goals at Woodward, sort of like plan with the end in mind by maybe identifying maybe people that you're interested in, friends that are older than you, maybe people that look like you that are older than you, almost identifying sort of little mini mentors, or at least just try to target your end game at Woodward or your maybe college university goals from someone that are in classes ahead of you. I'm gonna say I came into Woodward in 9th grade, from public school in College Park, really with the end game in mind. I wanted to go to MIT. I knew that's where I wanted to go. I felt like the school in my neighborhood, local school, wouldn't prepare me for that. But I know Woodward would. It was a school where 100% of the students went to college. So that was kind of crazy to me. But going there and actually seeing guys at Woodward that looked like me. I have to mention names. I'm not sure if they're on the call, like Malik King and Andre Hiltons and these guys ahead of me, but other young black men that got accepted into MIT and got accepted into Dartmouth. That definitely kind of motivated me and showed me that, yeah, it is possible. I can do this too. So definitely latch on to students, peers, older than you, that you may want to emulate a similar path. So, that's it.
Very good, Lawrence.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in here. I have 2 daughters at Woodward. One is in the 8th grade and one is in the 10th grade. And I'm so grateful that, some of the folks that were there are still there. When I was there, are still there. For example, Dean Carroll, I still call her Dean Carroll, taught me biology. And, some of the friends that I grew up with are teaching my daughters, Dana Jefferson. And it's so amazing to experience that as a mom and as someone who graduated from Woodward. And I tell them, which is what I would tell everyone, it is a privilege to go to this school. It is an absolute privilege to go to this school. And so just like what they've said, immerse yourself in what Woodward has to offer, because other schools just don't offer it. And I have said to them, we're all change makers. And if you're a change maker, you have to be a risk taker. And so that means that risk of, like you said, Tamara, trying out for cheerleading, trying out for SGA. And if you don't make it, it's okay. Because, I think Woodward teaches us to be tenacious. It teaches us to be resilient. One of my managers said to me, "You're one of the most resilient, persistent people I've ever met." And I went, "Ooh, I know that's not me. That's just because, I'm like Kamala Harris, I eat no for breakfast." That's what we learned at Woodward, right? That is what we learned. And so the other thing that I would tell students is just like what you've said, be an advocate for yourself, because that is positioning you for college. It is positioning you for outside of college. How do you advocate for yourself? And networking is so important. Make sure people know you. That is so important. And so I'm just, the other thing that I would also say is when you leave the school, give back. Pay it forward. I served on the alumni board, and I love Nicole Adams. She brought me on the alumni board. We're in the same sorority. Winnie Wilkins, who's also on this board, we went to the University of Georgia together. I was with Nicole, not with her, but followed in her footsteps at the University of Georgia. And so making those connections and keeping those connections is so important. I still keep in touch with my class. We get together every Christmas. Class in 1990, we come over, we eat, we talk, we text. I mean, it's so important to keep those friendships and keep that network that you have at Woodward, because it is definitely a privilege.
I think that's so true. If I can just add, just yesterday, I come back and forth from Texas, but just yesterday I talked to 2 Woodward friends, and they genuinely, they all, are concerned. I had a loss in my family, and they're like, "When are you coming back?" I mean, these are people that, we went to middle school together, and I think that makes Woodward special. It really.
I agree. I agree with you. My college roommate was one of my best friends at Woodward, Don Goldsboro. I mean, we still keep in touch with each other, and that's important. It's truly important. So.
Darren?
Yeah, no, I think what I would say to the current population, the current student body is, the world's not perfect. And, we started this call with a sort of a reflection that this grew out of some of the challenges that had been brought up. But Woodward is still a great place to deal with those imperfections. And it prepares you to go out in the world to deal with those imperfections. And the relationships at Woodward are things that you will manage, hold on to, leverage for the rest of your life. So recognizing that while the Woodward has its challenges, I'm sure like any other organization, and we've recognized a lot of things in the last 16, 18 months, the environment there is still nurturing and caring and prepares you to go outside of the Woodward life and deal with those things. And the other thing I would echo is what was said earlier, which is, don't be in a hurry to get away from the Woodward community. Some of my best friends in life are people I met from 1978 forward when I started Woodward, and we are still friends today. And we're not just, Christmas card friends. We are really, I'm in town, you're in town. Let's see each other. And that foundation is still really real. And other people in my life who, didn't experience Woodward with me are kind of baffled by that connection, and they're like, this is like Ivy League college relationship connection. And these are people you went to high school with. And it's hard to explain. So I would encourage folks today to really value those relationships, nurture those relationships. Because it really does create a common bond. I joke with some of my Georgia Tech friends. Anybody that went to Georgia Tech knows the common word is, when did you get out? Nobody graduates from Georgia Tech. It's, when did you get out? And so we always have that connection. It's like a prison sentence. When did you get out? And Woodward's a similar thing in terms of, you can run into a Woodward graduate from anywhere and connect across racial lines, gender lines, ethnicity, and all of those. So, we've heard the word several times tonight, or the phrase is lean in and embrace. And I would tell today's students to lean in and embrace the fact that the experience, despite its challenges and despite, what may be difficulties, it's an amazing opportunity, a life-changing opportunity, and to stay connected.
Wow. Very, very sage advice to students. I hope you were taking notes. I took notes too, because I think a lot of the things too that the panel shared were not just for students. For those of us who have graduated, I think we could still certainly say, you know, follow your passion, try something new, push yourself. You're capable of more than what you could imagine. Take advantage of your resources. Networking, Ms. Val, is about the networking, and paying it forward or giving forward. Thank you so much, panelists, for being here, and special thanks also to our BSU students. I'd like to remind everyone that this entire event, Legendary Trailblazers, and legendary means distinguished, remarkable, and unforgettable. Trailblazers meaning pioneers. And I'm going to go out on a limb, Nat, and say that this panel is certainly filled with legendary trailblazers, but thank you all so much for being a part. And at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Benji.
All right. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Maya and Alexis to speak for the Black Student Union. You guys can go ahead.
Hi. So first, I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists. Like, this was really insightful and honestly exciting to kind of see how bright a future after Woodward is, and knowing that me and Lexi and all of the other current Black students can just already go ahead and plug into this alumni community with all of you amazing people. It's just really exciting to me. So now I'd like to just tell you guys a little bit about the Black Student Union and how we've gotten started up until, and kind of our journey up until now. So the Black Student Union was started in 2017. And like many of our ancestors in the past, the club had to meet in secrecy because the administration didn't yet see how beneficial a Black Student Union would be to its students and the overall Woodward community. So it was a long time coming, but we're so grateful for the impact that we've been able to have in the past few years. Our mission is to foster community and comfort for Black Woodward students while educating and enlightening all students and faculty on the issues and culture of the Black community. This year, Lexi Rogers and I are the co-chairs of the BSU Leadership Board and have been working since this summer through the turmoil we saw in the Black community. We work with an amazing board separated into different departments such as finance and marketing. And yes, before I hand it over to Lexi, I just want to thank you guys all again for your continued support of not just Woodward, but specifically the Black Student Union, and specifically the way that you guys care about the current Black students. And we can't wait to continue in our leadership of Black Student Union until we graduate and can become a part of the Black Alumni Association. So Lexi, you can go.
Yes, before I start with a little bit of an update, I definitely want to echo what Maya is saying. We see you on Instagram. We see your messages of love, and we really, really appreciate it because it means that the hard work that Maya and I as co-chairs and the rest of our board that we helped create, that hard work is all worth it if we see people who have gone through that process and are proud of us. And so it's definitely worth it. I'd be remiss if I did not do a little plug for all of our events that we have this month. It is Black History Month, and we are doing it big for sure. So yesterday, as President Gully stated at the beginning, we had our Shades of Woodward event that was moderated by me and my fellow classmate, Roman Holder. We started on the 2nd with Grant Hill, who was, he's co-owner of the Atlanta Hawks, and he's played in the NBA, Hall of Famer. He came and spoke to our members about his career. Today we had CeeLo Green come and speak, and that was a wonderful time as well, talk about his music career. We also have an event. We have events planned next week with our Legal Studies Club on campus, talking about the Equal Justice Initiative. We also have an event about being Black and being a part of the LGBTQ+ community with our gender group in our Intersectional Feminism Club. We also have tons of events. I'm sorry, but I have to plug them all. Maya's father, Will Packer, will be coming to us at the end of the month to speak to us about his career in the entertainment industry. And then finally, we'll close it off with a renowned psychologist, Dr. Jillian Watley, who will speak to us about Black mental health. All of these events, they are for the Black Student Union, but we've been able to work with IT in order to make these events open to you guys as well. So if you check the link tree in our bio of our Instagram, which is WA Black Student Union, you'll be able to see those Zoom links for all of these events. Of course, all of these are virtual. We want to make this as accessible as possible. And we hope you'll join us and follow us on Instagram to see what we have coming up next outside of Black History Month. So this has been an amazing experience. This panel, it's been extremely informative and inspiring. And I've really, really enjoyed my time serving on the Black Student Union Leadership Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Lexi. Thank you. And I'll just kind of echo what they said. I know as far as the panelists goes, we've been talking about this for a while, kind of getting all this stuff together. So I want to say thank you all for really just being a part of this and dealing with the emails and with the questions and answering them, because, some of the stories you guys said was, it's mind blowing, because I kind of found myself in a lot of those same situations. So to see you all be successful and to see you all, kind of saying the things that, I might be thinking, but, people look up to, are really saying it. So it kind of reminds me to keep working hard, be open to change, and also value the experience that we had at Woodward. I think Woodward's a very unique school, and Atlanta's a unique city, to be honest. So connecting us, we have a lot of successful Black alumni. I know when we first started this, Clarence and I didn't even realize I went to University of South Carolina. He works in Columbia. So having those connections, I would have loved to have grabbed dinner with, Clarence when I was in college. So having those connections, and then, hearing from Maya, hearing from Lexi, and realizing that we have the opportunity to make them more successful than us. And clearly, as you can hear, they're doing very well, City Union, and moving things forward. So we really appreciate you all. We want to continue this networking. We want to continue this mentorship and all the events that we have as far as Woodward Black Alumni Foundation. So hopefully next year, or hopefully soon, we'll have some in-person stuff. But until then, we also will be doing a lot of stuff via Zoom. We're doing stuff on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm going to post the Facebook and LinkedIn, my LinkedIn profile. I invite you guys to the LinkedIn group that we have. We basically just update on anything. So professionally, you'll be able to have access to a lot of the younger people in my generation that's looking for opportunities and to be where you all are. So thankful for taking time out of your busy day, and also thankful for everybody, Nat, April, Caroline, Dr. Gully for saying his words. This was a process, and I'm glad we got the chance to do this. So you all, the link as far as looking my LinkedIn go, and we'll keep you all updated on our next event. So I'm excited at the momentum we're getting right now. So I appreciate you all. Anybody have any questions, any comments, anything you want to add?
Just proud of everyone, that's all.
Yes.
Great job.
Great job. Thanks, everyone.
Great job, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining.
Keep paving those trails, Maya and Lexi. Yeah.
Yeah,
we will.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say I forgot to acknowledge our BSU advisors, Miss Montgomery and Miss Hewitt. We would not be able to be having speakers that we're having the events that we're having without their constant support. They really let us lead and yet support us in everything we do. So I just wanted to thank them really quickly.
Perfect.
Great job, Benji. To all the parents that are on as well, all the parents of alums, alums of or parents of students too. Thank you guys. And there was nothing but good comments, Benji. I can tell you in the Q&A. Great comments.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm gonna put my Facebook or my LinkedIn under. I guess Latanya. I'll put it under Kim's answer. Kim Lawrence. I'll put the Facebook group and also my LinkedIn. I'll add you guys, and then once I add you guys, I add you to the list of people, and from there you guys can add whatever professional advice or where eventually we want to be big to the point where you can just post, you're looking for an internship or anything, and go from there. All right, so I just posted both of those things. Feel free to email myself and Woodward Black alumni if you have any questions or you guys want to get involved in anything. We're always looking for volunteers to help. So appreciate you all being a part of this whole event, and we'll keep you updated on anything else we have. But until then, you guys enjoy your night, and appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Thanks, you all.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Likewise. Blessings to all. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.